preaching socialism.
Yes,
That's not real socialism.
Well, are you kidding? George Soros doesn't want socialist policies. Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, doesn't want socialist policies.
Did you just say that out loud? Jeff Bezos, the man who fights tooth and nail to make sure that his company never unionizes and they don't have any kind of workers' rights. You think that he wants workers to own the means of production. You think Jeff Bezos would want that. You think that. I think one of the reasons I don't often watch Russell Brand is just, it seems like a lot of fusions of new agery and kind of conservative talking points, but it's bundled in with populism and an empathy for the quote poors, kind of. He's just an odd individual, kind of just your. It's like privileged liberal activism with some new agery sprinkled on top. That's kind of how I'd place it.
Owens, or do you absolutely detest her? Do you like me, or do you absolutely loathe me? Wherever you stand on two polarizing figures, here we are in conversation. Now, obviously, we talk about politics. Particularly, I wanted to press Candace Owens on the idea that most people that live in systems of elitism and privilege are in those positions because of advantages that have been endowed upon them. Candace Owens, more of an individualist than I am, you might imagine, strongly contests my perspective. Hopefully, we remain respectful and light and kind with one another while vehemently disagreeing. I'm going to have further conversations with Candace Owens, so look out for those. This conversation took place on my podcast, Under the Skin, available.
Yeah. It's basically the Jimmy Dore school of, let's say, leftism, where basically at the end of the day, it's very anti-lockdowns and because of personal freedoms. Like the idea will be vaccines and vaccine passports in general are ways for big corporations and big tech and the elites to control you and monitor you, which, like, on its surface, sure, some of that is true, but it already happens and we do it willingly. Like, I don't think anyone would have predicted that in the future there would be this environment in which we would give up all of our personal information. We would let robots and machines learn more about us than our own, let's say, lovers do. Because at the end of the day, the amount of information you feed into Facebook and Google and all that, they learn so much about you that they can then regurgitate information back to you that, like, people who are probably very close to you don't even know. But we give it all up willingly because we like the apps. Like, that was the part that no one predicted, that we just do it because we're like, but I like the free apps. I like being addicted to all these things. They're fun.
Luminary, you can subscribe to it. There's a link in the description. Let me know what you think about this conversation in the comments below.
Look,
I agree, but do you
towns.
not think this individualistic culture is in itself destroying the principles at a spiritual, human level of community? Do you not think when people see this economic inequality, this disparity, I'm not talking about hating your little rich friend Lola Bell or whoever it was, you went round to see her nanny and were infuriated by it, but thought, oh, well, maybe one day I'll have my own nanny. Do you not think that economic inequality creates in a human being a sense of injustice, of unfairness? Because people, do you know what, Candace? 90% of people that are rich, do you know why they're rich? They was born rich.
Okay, I can tell you something. I think that economic disparity creates that feeling, but a fundamental understanding in economics can help you
Do you know that
conquer
the most people that are rich are born rich? It's not like there's a tiny minority of people that are like you that come from a poor background and manage to overcome it. And this is what's a problem I've noticed with a lot of great people, is they sort of believe that their greatness is something that can be replicated, and I don't think it can.
I see. So I believe in the individual, you don't. That's our fundamental differences.
That the primary goal of the individual should be to serve the community.
I do not believe that the primary goal of
what
an
do you
individual,
think the primary goal of the
I think that once an individual feels
serve
that they
the
have
individual?
served, so you're discounting the human spirit.
I'm not discounting
yes,
it. I'm
is.
saying that's all
Let me
there
ask
is.
You, let me ask you. No, there's not. In a humanity, think of animals in the wild. You don't even have to go to humanity. We can just think about animals in the wild. What is our human instinct, okay? Are you going to make sure that everyone on this block is fed before you feed yourself? Do you go around and say, hey, have you had breakfast this morning?
Listen.
Hey, have you had breakfast this morning? Hey, or are you going to make sure you're eating? And if you have an excess, of course you're going to do the human condition, and our incentives are going to be to want to help people.
So wait, does she make breakfast in the morning? And then she's got a little bowl of porridge. and she's had her fill, and she's like, all right, well, I'm good. I've eaten all the porridge I can consume at this moment in time. Does she then knock on her neighbor's doors and then offer them the excess porridge? Is that what she does? Is that her solution?
Incest, the richest
My mum
15
does that,
people on
Callus?
the planet
Wow,
have got
that's
as
kinda
much
cute.
Cumulative wealth as the poorest 5 billion.
But
that's
talking-
an excess.
No.
That's an excess.
Okay. Excuse me. First and foremost, you're talking about literally 0.00001% of the world is what
Let's
you're
get
talking
'em.
about. Okay,
Let's
but
get 'em.
and what are they preaching? What do they want? Socialism, so that nobody else has the opportunity to become what they've become. They're the ones that are pushing.
The 6th richest human beings on the planet, who do have the combined wealth of half of the human population, they're not asking for socialism. They're not preaching for that. In fact, they're not really preaching a lot in terms of their politics. They're just running. They're just making more money. There's not you don't have Bezos and Gates and all of them and Zuckerberg standing up and being like, by the way, socialism, it's pretty poggies. It's what we all want, us uber rich and wealthy people.
Preaching socialism.
Yes,
That's not
they
real
are.
socialism. Well,
Are you kidding? George Soros doesn't want socialist policies. Jeff Bezos, the
No.
richest man in the world, doesn't want socialist policies.
Did you just say that out loud? Jeff Bezos, the man who fights tooth and nail to make sure that his company never unionizes and they don't have any kind of workers' rights. You think that he wants workers to own the means of production. You think Jeff Bezos would want that. You think that. Because he could do that. Well, I mean, he could have back when he was in charge of the whole show, but he could definitely distribute some of his own shares, make sure that the rest of his workers had a little more skin in the game. He doesn't even have to give them equal say. He could just give them dust, like lint, anything. Instead, he's like, no, all you ants. I'm better off when you're pooing in bags and shitting in bottles. I flipped those intentionally. That's right, Chico. I flipped them.
They want to make sure that no one else has the opportunity to get to
we
where they
need to
got.
discuss our language, me and you, because
We do.
Here's what my socialism looks like. Take Jeff Bezos' wealth from him, except for a reasonable stipend for him to live on. Something like, he can have 10 million a year or something. Tax Amazon to the ground.
So
That's not socialism.
The rich people.
Okay, so now I understand why so many people already are making videos about how Russell Brand destroyed Candace Owens. I think that's just a very popular suggestion. And I'm like, that's awesome. I would go as far as saying he doesn't even need the $10 million a year. But I would say, why not break up his company and distribute the ownership of Amazon to all its workers? That's a little closer attuned to socialism. But yes, if you want to take Jeff Bezos and tax him and redistribute that wealth, I'm for that. That just sounds like solid policy.
Pay for 85% of all of the taxes. You think they should pay for even more?
Do you think
That's fact.
statistically
That's
true?
fact. Yes.
That's not a fact.
Don't look at me with
I'm telling
that's
you,
fact.
that's a fact.
Face.
The top 10% pay for 85.
So what Russell Brand is asking for when he said tax Amazon, he's talking about corporate taxes. And there's a lot of ways. And I think by this point, we've kind of discovered most of them, thanks to the Panama Papers, other revelations, in how the uber wealthy, the uber rich get around paying taxes. In fact, to some of them, it's almost a declaration of their benevolence, because it's like, yeah, I'm smart enough to not even pay taxes.
5% of all the taxes. When people say they're going to raise their taxes more, I'm just like, how much more? Should we just say just pay for all the taxes?
I say this, that there is no, when you're about to use an example from the natural world, and then
I'm talking about
you
America,
backed
by the
off
way.
it,
I
didn't
forgot
you?
that I'm in. No, I was gonna say the instinct when you're in the natural world is that you feed your family first. You're not the idea that socialism tries to create goes
we are
against
no longer
human.
in the natural world, are we? We're in a world of sort of accumulation and excess, and I don't think it's even working. I wonder about sort of, look, I wonder, because you could say, where do you draw the line? Because look at me, I've got money now, I'm not poor anymore, and I'm not going, right, I'll just take everything that's, the thing that I do agree with when I see like sort of right-wing commentators talk, like they talk about people that are, in inverted commas, from the left, and they go, well, why don't you put some refugees in your house? Why don't you give up your money? And the reason is because people are selfish, and in all of us, there is a kind of battle between, like some of my impulses, Candace, are, I just want pleasure and fun, and I don't care about anything except myself. That's in me. That's in me, and it's strong. But I personally think I don't feel good when I live that way. There are consequences for me, and there are consequences for others. So I kind of want to live within systems that encourage collective and communal values.
Thief,
That instead
theft. We're talking about theft.
no, we're not talking about theft.
Demanding that people give up their stuff is theft, but it sounds
Where do you get this? What a strange way of thinking. That's just like utterly bizarre to hear the things that Russell Brand had just said there. And again, like I'm not even the biggest Russell Brand fan, but I'm like that is a very accurate statement to say the least. And then she's like, "Well, you're talking about stealing. This is basically you're talking about stealing from other people."
sounds pretty when you say
Listen, you.
encourage, incentives. No, when the government comes and
I'm not-
demands
you
that I
keep
give
bring-
to someone
no,
else,
listen,
that's theft.
You keep translating what I'm saying
helping
into. No, you're not helping me.
He's
you're
talking about theft.
You're translating what I'm saying into rhetoric that you can argue with, creating straw men of my words as we go, so
not
you
straw
can kick
man.
them
That
over.
is theft.
No, that's. I'm not saying that. I'm not espousing the values of big government. I'm not saying that there's any political party that currently exists that in any way represents my views. I'm just asking if in politics, both personally and collectively, there's room for.
I mean, that's kind of convenient if you just fall back on that, and then it's just like, well, yeah, there's no representation of what I actually want or believe in the real world, and that could be true. But then it's like, okay, and so then what next?
Little more compassion and love. And whilst I agree with your that there is something easy to fetishize about individual achievements in your own case or wherever we see greatness, we can't take that example of the ability of the individual to overcome adversity to condemn people that haven't been able to. Like, where is there a role then for compassion and kindness? I'm not saying let's
Not
create a
in
big
politics.
government and take away
Not
all
in
your...
politics. So my thing is that the conversation should be completely separate. Americans give $500 billion in charity every single year. Okay, it has been proven that when you lower the tax rate, when government stays out of our paycheck, we actually give more. That we're inclined to. If you have more money and you're able to do it, of course you want to give and you want to help.
You know what's bizarre is, like, I think these are all conservative talking points that at one point or another, when you start to fall into the entire ethos of conservatism, you have to start believing all these individual facts. So you'll say them out loud as if like she doesn't even sound like, I don't for one think that right now she's lying in the sense that what she's saying she knows to be demonstrably false. I think she genuinely believes this because it's been said and reinforced so many times. Trickle down economics, trickle down economics, trickle down, smaller government, deregulated markets, more money in your pocket, rich people will give more. That's just the way of the world, right? But she's got this idea that that's true because I've been told it so many times.
When the government is saying we're going to tax your business, if you're successful, you're going to get taxed more. You know, what is the incentive for you to want to jump and build a business if you know that you're going to be penalized for it? You're going to be penalized for success. That's why we believe in limited government. When I say we, obviously I work for an organization, Turning Point USA.
Oh yeah, what's that all about?
It's a winning back.
Turning Point.
Turning Point
What are you
USA.
meant to
We're
turn
launching
to?
it in the UK, TP UK. That's what this whole trip is about. It sounds
You're
good,
hold
too.
on a minute. You're launching Turning Point, and like Turning Point is what? What do you want us to turn to?
It's conservative principles taught in the school system because the kids are learning this lolly-dolly merry-go-round. The world's going to be purple and we're all going to have lollipops in the school systems. And then possibly from your podcast, I guess I haven't watched enough episodes. It's just not. It's the truest, the economic model of letting people find success because they're willing to work hard. If you don't want to work hard, you shouldn't be rewarded. I don't believe in that. I don't believe, well, what about the person who doesn't have your drive?
What?
So there's this idea, and I think conservatives love talking about it, that if there's not equality of opportunity, for example, if there's no, we don't have to factor in equality of opportunity, because at the end of the day, what we want is to eliminate the myth of equality of outcome, because that is a myth, you know. And obviously, I don't think there's any lefty who's like, I want equality of outcome. I want every single human being to have the exact same outcomes in their lives. I don't want any variation in that. Everyone is going to have the exact same life, and that is communism. All right, we're going to cookie cardboard cutter versions of people and just push them out of the factory lines. That's what the communists want. But we want to make equality of opportunity, obviously, as equal as it can be. And I say can be because there's no such thing as universal equality of opportunity. There isn't. It's just like everyone knows that. All right. There are people, no matter how hard I try, that are going to be infinitely better basketball players than I'll ever be. And I say that as someone who cannot play basketball. I will fall over my own feet. I am a clown on the court, as I am in the courtroom. So there's no hope for me. It's loss. But at the end of the day, if we have an abundance of wealth, which we do, if you live in the richest country in the world, which Candace Owens does, if there are individuals who have billions, with B, billions of dollars, if there are corporations that have billions of dollars net profit, then it's hard to justify having people who are also homeless, dying, and starving in the same system, or having people who don't have access to healthcare in the same system with such abundances of wealth. Because again, the wealth is being created by these multitudes of people. The workers. It's the workers who are generating the wealth for everybody. It's not the CEOs on the top. They are organizers. They are perhaps creators of the businesses, but it is still the workers who are generating the products that get sold.
Should economic systems govern the way that we live our lives? Why is there not room for people to be different? Why is it that a person's
You can't be
value and
different.
worth should be distilled into
That's called the natural
economic
market. You can't make
units?
that go away.
That's not called the natural
Yes, it
The
is.
natural
Well,
market.
You can't make that
You've
go
applied
away,
that
no matter
idea
what.
too.
Tell me in the history of the world where there hasn't been some give and some take. You can't make that go away. There's no magic wand that you can wave that's going to make human incentives and what happens in humanity go away. Doesn't matter how rich or how poor society is. There's going to be give, there's going to be take. People are going to create natural markets. I have 3 apples, I'll give you 2 apples if you give me this. I mean, that it just happens. This is the way the world works.
Yeah, I appreciate that we have certain natural impulses to trade and to cooperate.
Well, if you're enjoying that conversation with
Wait, that's where your clip ends? I think he did very well, by the way. I think like the whole thing seems cheeky, which makes sense. It's Russell Brand. Do you want movies and Serfs watching the movies? So then come over to the new channels. It's the Serfs cinema. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our gods, Tigro and Payden El Jus, we pray to you, our sky daddies, to keep us safe from harm. To our monarchs, Tom Spiker and the Tim Caucus, we shall humbly clean your golden toilets in your spatial palaces. To our lords, Ultra Wolf, Evan Nudie, Trevor R., Alexander Thaler, Ryan Lubin, and Jeff Lamb, we are eternally grateful for this small segment of land for us to toil and work. To our knights, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, Catherine, Bone Jenny, Radical Maniac, Ramona Costa, Jimmy Bignuts, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Jopi, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our glasses, we raise our swords, and we salute you, our friends. And to Lance, you are the wind beneath my wings.